Hello, my name is Adam Tao. I'm the developer of MixEffect, and I'm here to give you a tutorial on the application. First off, what is MixEffect? MixEffect is an application for iOS, iPadOS, and Macs running on Apple Silicon to control BlackMagic design ATEM switchers. I assume by the fact that you're watching this video, you know exactly what an ATEM switcher is. So let's get started right away with the demo because we have a lot to go over. Here's a screen of the iPad that I'm running right here that's controlling my ATEM Extreme ISO, which is right down there. And we can take a look at the switcher interface. So when you connect to your ATEM switcher, you'll have a bunch of options on the left-hand side. These are your switcher sections. And on the right-hand side is the section that you're currently looking at. So right now we're looking at the switcher section. And you can see I have program, preview, I have SuperSource, I have my upstream keyers, my transition styles, my downstream keyers, my output, as you can see in red here that I'm currently recording this. And you see red up here in the title bar, that's also red. We have a list of my macros with buttons that show the index as well as the name. We have a select bus and my outputs. That's the switcher. And you can see other views here. So for instance, we have the audio. You can see my audio channels here. I'm currently outputting to mic 1. We have macros. We have media that lists all of our media images and stills and clips if your ATEM switcher supports them. We can look over all our transition, change the settings for there. We can see the status of all our upstream keyers on the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. There are 4 of them, so we can cycle through all 4 of them right here. We have our downstream keyers, 2 of them on the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. We have SuperSource, which is one of the most popular features of MixEffect. I'll be covering that later in this video. We have color generators, so we can change our default colors in real time. You can see it. If you happen to have the ATEM software control application running on your Mac or Windows computer, you can actually move these sliders and see it change in real time. Vice versa, you can also change the settings in ATEM software control, and you can see the sliders move without your hands. Camera control. I have a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema behind me. And let's just go quickly switch over to that input and swap cameras. And I'll make box 1 go to camera 3. So you can see in front of me and behind me. I'm actually going to swap that and make camera 1 go to camera 2. We go back to camera control. I'm on camera 3 and I'll just hit autofocus on and you can see the camera behind me focusing in the big box right there. We have some auxiliary outputs so you can change what your multi-view and your other second auxiliary output goes to. Right now we have it set to multi-view and aux2, there's nothing plugged in right now, so we have that set to multi-view as well. Output, you can see that I'm recording right now. It's been 3 minutes and 20 seconds. I have 11 hours left on my SSD disk. I'm not recording all ISO inputs, and I show the recording indicator here at the top. But if you're doing a live stream, you'd also see all the information about your stream here. I'm not streaming at the moment. One thing to keep in note is that when you do a record, it takes the quality setting that you've set in the live stream. So make sure it's set to a high value to get the best quality record. Finally, we have a bevy of switcher settings here. Some people like to use the cut bus, so I offer that option there. You can change the video mode. Right now, I think I'm set to 1080p 23.98. You can configure your multi-view. So we have this wonderful interface for changing your multi-view layout. You just tap the kind of layout that you want. Your multi-view changes over there on the side, and you can change your what each little square goes to. So let's go back to that, and I like this one. That's the one I like best. So let's come back to the switcher. And what we're going to do now is we're going to change the switcher interface. First off, I'm going to go back to my camera inputs here, and I'll bring camera, let's see, box 2 back to the iPad, and box 1, I'll bring this back to me. So going back to the switcher, we have a fully customizable interface here. So if you tap the button in the upper right, you can access the switcher pages. And here you can see, all the panels that have been loaded up here. But if you don't like these panels, you can change them. So for instance, if you don't like separate program and preview, you can add a panel that is a combined program preview. So let's just do that. And we'll reposition this up there. And let's say you want to change your media. So we'll add a media player thing there. And for output, let's add something for flying key. That's a good one to add. So now you see at the top here, we have the program preview. It's been combined. So I can do all the switching here. And if you could see my multi-view to my right, you would see it changing there in real time. Down below next transition, we have the media player 1 and media player 2. You see that I have a still set for media player 1. And if I brought that on air, which I can do by pushing this button here, it will run a shortcut, another feature of MixEffect. There's full automation within the application to control it from within iOS shortcuts. You see I brought in a dynamically generated lower third down there in the bottom left-hand corner. So we'll just kind of push that out of the way. And we will now take a look at macros. So one thing about macros in ATEM software control is that you basically have like 5 pages of macros, each with maybe 20 each for a total of 100 macros. But what's really hard is that you can't filter on the macros, and they're all just a little string of text. So what MixEffect does is it allows you to see all your macros. Right now I only have 9 macros, but what's great is that you can change the macro to have colors. Who doesn't love colors? So this one will be, and I'll give it a car icon here. So not only can you have your macros in color and have an icon, you can sort them in a variety of different ways. You can sort them by index. So here we have them in 1 to 9. You can sort them by name. If you do a search and you have, say, you want to search for every macro that has the word 6 in it, so only one macro there, you can filter your things based on name. It also searches the description field. You can also sort by icon or by color. If you just tap and press, you can re-record a macro, just like that. And we're recording right now. We see a recording panel pop up right here. I can go to the switcher and I could run auto. It'll do an auto transition right there. And let's just say that's all I want in this particular macro. I'll stop that. I can go down to the macro panel down here and I can run it. And it'll just do the auto transition that I had. If I don't like it, I can just long press and delete the macro. Boom, you're done. So that's macros. Let's take a look at media. So we're going to bring in my lower third while I do a transition over to the media section. You see all the media that's been uploaded to this device. This ATEM Mini Extreme ISO can support 20 still images. If you have a switcher that supports clips and audios, you'll see a tab down at the bottom where you can change those things. What's great about MixEffect is that you can actually upload images from your photos library. So all you have to do is tap the plus, find the album that you want to upload to. Let's go to this one. Let's upload this one. Select where you want to upload it to. We will go to, let's say, 15. And we'll see that 15 has just been uploaded right there. And if I wanted to set this to, say, Media Player 2, which is the background of this SuperSource that you see here, there, I just changed the background. Okay, we're going to change it back. Just pop that right up there. There you go. So that's media in MixEffect. Let's take a look at some transitions. So if we go to the transition section here, we see a list of all the transitions that we can control and change all the settings there. Let's move this over here. So move this back out. So we have mix, dip, wipe, and DVE. And if you have an ATEM switcher that supports stingers, you'll see that option here as well. So if we go back to the switcher, we see we have the exact same things right here. So if I wanted to do a mix and do an auto transition, it would do that. If I wanted to do a dip, which does a dip to a color, it goes to the color that we defined earlier in the color generator. If we want to do a wipe, just actually long press to kind of get controls for the wipe. And let's take a look at the wipe settings. So we have a diamond. We do an auto. We see it does that. Let's see, we do it from the corner here, like that. And if we set a width, we can also set a fill source. So the same thing with the diamond. You'll see that kind of teal color as a little border around there. Finally, we have the DVE. So if we take a look at the DVE, we are going to choose a push right. Oh, we actually have to set the DVE here by tapping this. Now we go back to DVE. Then you see a push right and a squeeze right. You can even use a graphic logo, which uses a fill source. So let's just say media player. Let's go back to that. Media player 2, which is our background image for the SuperSource. You'll see you'll do an animation based on that using the media player 2. So let's take a look at the Upstream Keyers. So Upstream Keyers, we currently have the transitions lower thirds up right now, but the Upstream Keyer is powering that through a chroma key. If we take a look actually at what Media Player 2 looks like, let's go back to the switcher. And I'll bring in Media Player 2, actually Media Player 1. So you see this is the automatically generated chroma key title that I generated using my shortcut, and we'll actually show it running in action here. Let's go back to our SuperSource. Let's actually turn back to a mix transition. So if we're running our shortcut, let's actually do it like this. Let's see if I type in Upstream Keyers. It's taking the text that I wrote, it's creating this chroma keyed transition and then replacing it within Media Player 1, and then you see it happen right there. Because I had the keyer up already, you saw the brief flash. That wouldn't happen if you were doing it running it through the Stream Deck that I have down here. So that's the Upstream Keyer section. We have 4 Upstream Keyers on the ATEM Mini Extreme, so you can set each of them, one to be a pattern, another one to be a chroma key, one to be a luma key, maybe one you have a DVE. So for instance, say Upstream Keyer 1, you want to do a DVE, and you want to bring in camera 3. You do pop, there it is. What's great about MixEffect is that you can have, you can control it by moving your finger. So I'm just using my finger to touch the blue square or rectangle and repositioning it on sides. I could also, pinch to expand or pinch to shrink, and move it around exactly to where I want it. So let's just put it right there. You can also use these controls, these preset controls, to kind of reposition very quickly. Before SuperSource, people use the Upstream Keyer to do picture-in-picture, but I find that the SuperSource is much more powerful, which we'll see later in this video. So let's turn off the Upstream Keyer and let's go take a look at the Downstream Keyer. So Downstream Keyer is usually used to display some type of bug. Let's actually turn off my lower thirds there. So one thing that I found with the ATEM Mini Extreme is that it has 2 media players, which is great. It really needs 4 to make this worthwhile, because there's only 2 Downstream Keyers, and if you're using one media player for your lower thirds titles and another media player for your background image and your SuperSource, you're all out of media players. So if we take a look at this, let's say we have the MixEffect logo here. I'm going to set this to media player 1, and I'm going to turn on the Downstream Keyer. I'm going to turn off pre-multiplied, and I'm going to bring it on air. You'll see that the lower third just appeared in the bottom left-hand corner. Actually, not the lower third, it's my little bug. But if I wanted to do a lower thirds, I have to use Media Player 1 as well. So, BlackMagic, come out with the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO Plus that has 4 media players, please. So we'll go back to our media and set the title back to Media Player 1. Now, let's take a look at SuperSource. probably the most popular feature and most powerful feature that I have in MixEffect. What does this do? So everyone knows the ATEM Mini Extreme has SuperSource as a way to bring in 4 inputs onto one screen. Uh, and a lot of times, or at least in ATEM software control, there's basically 4 presets that you have access to. You have access to, and I'll show them real quick. You have access to the 4 grid, which looks like, actually, let's go to grid mode here. You have access to 4 grid. They have the 4 grid alternate look. They have, let's see, I believe it is the diagonal look, which is this one. And they have another one, which is like the 3 left crop, which looks like this. And basically, the app is fend for yourself to make any other SuperSource layout. So a lot of people have created macros that create SuperSource layouts, some of which include animations. But what MixEffect does is it gives you a visual interface for creating SuperSource in a very nice and elegant manner. And the bonus thing is that it offers transitions between your layouts. So just take a look at this. I'm not doing anything. This is all happening in real time in MixEffect. Pretty cool, huh? You can also do things in MixEffect such as highlight. So for instance, if I just hit Command 1, you see that box number 1 just got bigger and the other ones got smaller. So imagine you're doing a show and you want to highlight person who's speaking in box 2. Actually, let's go to this one. Say you have 4 people in a vertical orientation and say highlight number 1, highlight number 2, highlight number 3, highlight number 4, and then boom, go back. And let's say they want to, you go back to the foreground, you have this beautiful animation. Now, what's cool about this is that you can just tap this unlock button and then you can start moving your screens around, your boxes around. Let's say you want 4 up there and 1 there, okay? Users of MixEffect right now might be wondering, what are these extra buttons I have here at the bottom? This is actually a pre-release version of version 1.03 that's coming out later this week. That gives you a grid to better align your boxes. It allows you to constrain movement, so you can only move it left and right, or up and down, or you just make it freeform. We have a box selector, which works on the next 2 commands. So this is a resizer. So let's say I want all my boxes to be 0.35 in size. Boom, right there. Let's bring it back up to 0.5. That's a little too big. Maybe 0.45. And then let's say all of our images we want, or all of our boxes, we want them to be in a 2x3 format. Boom, right there. And then we can just quickly rearrange them how we want. And let's actually make a layout that looks like this. And say we like this layout, all I have to do is hit save, and it'll update the 4 grid layout that I had here. Or I can hit Command N and create a brand new layout. So I can call this 4 vertical, let's say, offset. Right there. What's great about SuperSource presets and MixEffect is that you can actually share these. So let's say you create a whole suite of presets that go far beyond the presets that I've given you here. I have like over 40 presets. You can export them and share them with other people. You can also reset your presets, which I'm going to do right now. And I'll reset your presets back to the defaults. So we'll go back to the 4 grid right there. And let's actually go to the pip. This one right here. There's box controls. So you can, if you want to dicker with your controls directly, you can just move the sliders here and there. This is box 1. I'm just going to move it like this. You can do fine controls by tapping these little stepper buttons. If you want to quickly change the input, you can say, look, I want to go to box 1, camera 3 right there. So if you're doing a show, you can just be living in SuperSource and switching between layouts. You can also use keyboard commands to do autos and cuts. Command return does an auto. Looks like the Upstream Keyers showing, Media Player 1 is showing in my preview. Or you can do Command Shift return to do a quick cut. There's plenty of keyboard shortcuts to control all of MixEffect. Take a look at the documentation at mixeffect.app/. docs for complete information on how to control the app. New in MixEffect 1.02 is OSC support. So OSC support allows you to control MixEffect using Companion and a Stream Deck. So if we take a look again at our SuperSource, I'm going to switch to a page that has in my on my Stream Deck that allows me to kind of like reposition just by pushing buttons like this. I'm just, as you can see in the screen, I'm just moving this window up and down. I can do things such as change to different switchers. Say I want to go to the audio, I just tap the button for audio, tap the button for macros, media, transitions. I can actually change SuperSource presets. So if I want to go to the 4 grid like that, or the 4 grid like that, we'll probably want to change the source for camera 1 since we had it on camera 3, or actually box 1. There we go. So I'm just pushing these presets and they're changing in real time. If I wanted to highlight 1, I just push the button on the Stream Deck. 2, 3, 4. So if you're familiar with the Stream Deck, you don't want to mess with the iPad interface. You can easily do everything from the Stream Deck. It's great. As you can also see down in the bottom right corner, there's actually the iPhone. My iPhone 11 Pro Max is running MixEffect, and it's basically the exact same interface that you see on the iPad, except that's been optimized for the iPhone interface. So we see Media Player 1 has been selected. I'm going to switch back to Camera 1. I'm going to do an auto transition straight from the phone. You can have this wonderful haptic feedback when you move the fader bar. So you can feel each frame that's moving. Go back like that. As you can see, there's no columns, multiple columns on the iPhone interface. It's basically just one big column. But again, you have full control over what you want to display in the switcher page by just tapping edit this page, and you can see all the different options that you can add to your column here. Close that. So a few more things before we close things out. Over here in MixEffect settings, you have a lot of tweaks for the interface. So things like differentiating your SuperSource boxes with colors. You have a sticky preset option, so you can always see this is coming up in MixEffect 1.03. You can always see the currently selected preset here on the left-hand side. It's kind of like docked there. You can change how quickly your presets run. So let's say you want like an instant change. You can just do this, boom, and there's no animation when switching between SuperSource presets. Or you can add like an extra slow one if you want to kind of emphasize a transition. You can do like that, okay? I like the fast one personally. I've touched briefly about automations. One of the other cool automations that I have is this feature called Video Follows Audio. So what that is that you can turn this on and you can, first let's configure it. And you can say things like when a certain audio level for say a microphone 1 goes above a certain threshold, change the SuperSource preset to say standard 1. So make sure it's on SuperSource 1. I'll save that. And say when the audio dips below a certain level, like minus 45 decibels, we will go to, let's say, the 4 horizontal crop, this one here, okay? So I'm going to turn on Video Follows Audio, and you're going to see what happens. So if I start talking in mic 1, it's going to trigger the fact that I'm above 20 dB, and it's going to go, and actually I need to talk above 20 dB, so let's raise the volume right there. So if I talk at 20 dB, it's going to trigger that, and it's going to switch to standard 1 preset. But now if I stop talking, and after a small brief period of time, it's going to trigger the Video Follows Audio for that and go back to the 4 horizontal crop. I'm going to lower the thing here. So you can see how if you configure your audio settings, your Video Follows Audio settings correctly, you can have your ATEM switcher switching automatically as people are talking, as people are not talking. The switching happens automatically. You don't have to do anything. You can focus on other stuff. Um, no hands. It's great. So I'm going to turn off actually video follows audio, so it doesn't do this automatic switching during this demonstration. And I'm going to go back to, let's say, this screen here. So let's actually go to this one here. So that's in a pinch what MixEffect does. If you have an iPad or an iPhone and you want complete control over your ATEM switcher, this is the app to get. And I don't say this just because I wrote it. I say this because there's a lot of people who are using it and they seem to really love it. From the SuperSource to the macros to the custom switcher pages, I think it's great, and they do too. So I encourage you to download MixEffect from the iOS App Store. It's a free download, free to try, and it comes with a 30-day trial of MixEffect Pro, which you see basically all the things that I demoed here come with MixEffect Pro. If you just want to use the free version, you have access to basic switcher controls. You can change your program in preview. You can change your transition styles. You can play with the fader bar, and you can do cut and auto. And that's basically it. But if you want more, if you want video follows audio, if you want shortcut integration, you want to see and interact with your macros, if you want access to SuperSource, you need to get MixEffect Pro, which is currently at an introductory price of $50. So get it now before the price might go up. Who knows? I hope you've enjoyed this quick tutorial on MixEffect, and let me know what you think about the app. Wherever you are, whether it's a Facebook user group, there's a MixEffect user group, or one of the many BlackMagic ATEM user groups that are out there, I contribute there. There's Twitter at MixEffect app. You can go join our Slack community. We have a Slack community on MixEffect. So if you just go to mixeffect.app/community, you can see all the links on the places where I'm contributing to and participating in. So I will meet you where you are. Thank you for watching, and I will be back in the future with another in-depth tutorial on MixEffect.